So the first thing I was going to talk about was Bitbucket pipelines. Are you all familiar with Bitbucket?
Yes.
It's okay to say no? Okay.
No idea.
Okay, cool. So Bitbucket is it's kind of like GitHub. It's just an online place you can have repositories, Git repositories. And they have like a slightly different payment model, which is why we use it, because it works for the amount of repositories that we have. It doesn't go, for private repositories you pay per user, not per amount of repositories you have, versus GitHub, which is reversed. And so that works for us. But functionally it's the same thing. I'm pretty sure they stole it, like when GitHub was just getting going. But it's, I won't have it up there. It looks just basically like GitHub. You got.
Oh, nothing's showing up.
Oh, you guys gotta tell me this.
No, it was more fun.
You guys got pictures and stuff.
Just stole your screen. Oh, there you go.
Is it a shorter learning curve than GitHub?
No, it's exactly the same. I mean, you have to know Git. Like that's kind of what it is. If you want an easy way to use Git on your own Mac, Git Tower, I highly recommend. It is. We use that because it's just way easy. I'm recommending this all to you right now, so I'm ahead of 10. Oh my god, never mind. Okay.
Too many questions.
One question. I mean, okay. So essentially, you've got an overview of what the project is. You have all the code that's in there, and you can check out the commit history, all that good stuff, just like GitHub. It's really just like GitHub. But just recently, they announced this thing called Bitbucket pipelines, which is kind of something we've been sort of working on. Like it's a continuous integration type of thing where you can, whenever you commit code to your code repository, it can kick off some process. Whatever process is up to you. It runs in Docker containers. So Docker containers are basically self-contained little computing instances that are empty or pre-built with some set of tools. And anything that you can do in basically a Linux environment, you can do within these tools. Oh my god, seriously? Second time.
What do you think?
Okay.
It's going to ask 3 questions before you can tell them.
Right. So basically you can enable it for any individual repository that you have set up. And let's say, for example, just a use case is, when I'm done pushing my commit, I want to go through some sort of automated testing. It does unit testing on my code, make sure it's all good. And then if it's all good, it deploys it to your production server, because that's like wiggling, right? Or staging or whatever. You can set up different things, which is cool. But the really nice thing is, like within your commit list, you can tell which builds worked and which ones failed. And you can actually go in and see, okay, what happened in this one. And it goes through and it will actually do the entire build. This one failed on setup, so that's like a non-starter right there. But each one of those commits that you put in can kick off some sort of process. So it's still in beta. You have to ask for permission to get into the system, but it's pretty cool. So they have this view that basically you can see all the branches that you have and click on any one of them to see like just the builds for those specific things, or you can see them all, which is what I'm looking at here. So when the success and error in wow,
not likely.
Sorry, hold on.
Don't be upset.
This is your JavaScript, isn't it? BB's hacking my Bitbucket repo. I am quality assistant. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay.
I know this.
You just got retargeted.
I know. No, there's no Facebook.
Facebook's gonna show you all sorts of crap now.
Okay, so I've been kind of playing around with this. Like we are not fully, full disclosure, we are not fully having this work where we want it to be. But what our goal is to help automate code reviews. So every time we push a commit, one of us looks at the code and goes, "Oh, you've got a semicolon," or "Oh, you need spacing around your parentheses because WordPress standards and stuff." What I have been working on is how to get this process working. So the setup for this is you create a file in your repository for I know you can't see that.
It's like shell script.
It's basically like a YAML file, which is an indented and whatever text formatted file that basically gives you the ability to set up the default actions, which is right here what I have set up. It only currently allows for one step, so I don't know why this is here. Like maybe later on they're going to add more steps. And then you have like, what is your script? You can write that, and so you can do anything like a node. Like I think we use, so our image that we use, our Docker instance is PHP 5.6 CLI. So it gives us access to PHP tools on the command line, but you can install anything as part of your setup process. So we install Git as one of our things. We are installing Composer and running the setup straight through there. We delete the setup file and then move it into place. And then there's this command line system called PHP CS, Code Sniffer, which has like basically it will run through PHP and tell you if there's any errors and things in them. Specifically, there's one that someone created for the WordPress project that basically checks the project, checks your code for WordPress-based standards, which is pretty cool. And then
Now, does that sniff all the code or just the files that you're modifying in that commit?
it's up to you.
Okay.
You can basically it just like it has access to all the code.
Yeah. Well, you can't successfully sniff all of WordPress because it doesn't all follow the code standard.
That is true. And I will tell you, having run PHP CS, there are many plugins that have so many files in them that it often fails because it's just it just blows up. So typically
one of those.
that may be one of them. Yoast SEO may be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Visual Composer might be one of them. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But our goal is basically to target any functionality plugins we have in the MU directory, any custom plugins we built, or any theme code. Like those are our three targets for what we're doing. And depending on what the results of those things are, succeed or fail and kick back to the developer, whoever did it. So one of the nice things, like they initially put this out there for deployment, like for more continuous integration. So if your code succeeds and it builds, you can auto deploy it to a server. So you can set up Bitbucket to have a deployment key, which is basically like an SSH key or something like that the server knows is valid, and it gives it the license basically to deploy your code to production, staging, whatever. The neat thing is you can do different tasks based on what branch you're committing to. So this one is set up just for default, like it's going to run this on every commit that's pushed to Bit, or not commit, everything that's pushed to Bitbucket. But if I wanted one specifically for the master branch, I can just do the same thing here. And these will only, everything under here will only run for that particular branch. So another use case is, let's say your team uses Gulp for compiling files, like your SAS files, things like that. You want, anytime something goes into master, you want to compile those files and deploy those files to your server. That means that you don't have to track compiled files, which hooray for everybody, because nobody likes tracking compile files. So again, another use case that if you run npm install, you run gulp, like it has all the things there, it will run right within the pipeline. So these are basically the top level commands, but if you toggle any one of these in particular open, it will show you the process of what was going on in each one, which is kind of cool. So every little bit of code you would see on your command line if you were running these locally, you see that all within here, and it gives you really everything.
How long does that take?
This process takes a long time because it spins up the Docker instance, which takes a little bit of time, and then especially
Linux.
Essentially, right? It's coming from just an image, but the initial build setup, takes a few. I'll show it here in a second, but it takes maybe a couple seconds to boot this part up and get going, and then once it gets through here, you can actually watch it running live too, so you can see what the process is or where it fails. So let's.
Do you get to pick which image of Linux it's going to use?
Yeah. So this right here basically is any Docker. You can choose any Docker hub. What a Docker hub. I'll type that right. Yeah. So you can basically come here and search for. You can find any one of these and basically use it. So the ones in the documentation that it kind of starts with are, where is it?
Is it just more streamlined to get a LAMP stack up and running and that's it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nice thing is that it's a Docker instance, so you can tear it down really easily without having to worry about anything. But this is what the default is. It defaults to Ubuntu, but it allows for really anything that your project would need in particular. When I got started here looking at it, it kind of went through. Let me see if I can find it. Some basic examples. Oh, there it was. Hold on. Well, I mean, you can just use any of these, but they basically give you some basic commands that you can use and what instances you can use for each one.
Cool.
So I'm just going to show kind of what it looks like when you push something. So okay, so I've modified this file. I've got a branch called pipelines-update. So I'll just go in here and then I'll just push it to Bitbucket.
Is this something that you wrote? Is that your pushing?
I just wrote, so you'll see it just got added to the list that says pending. Now it's in progress, and if I click on it, you kind of see the progress of where it's at. And by default, it just kind of shows you where it's at, and then it collapses that block. Just when you go get a beer or something.
That's for each push, huh?
For each push, yeah.
It should order you up there.
What's that?
It should order you up there.
You could probably script it to go do that.
Is that because of all the customizations you have then? Or
No, it's basically a build process, right?
Wait.
So let's say you're building
Yes.
a mobile app.
It's having to
What?
install Linux every time you do this?
Yeah.
Depending on what you choose, yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
basically like setting up VPV, right?
Right.
It's the same kind of a process. But this right here is it's installing. It's doing the git install process.
So you can make a fresh box. You can make a box that you keep up to date, and it'll have everything.
So you could do your own image, right? You could make your own Docker instance that has all the tools you need on it. I haven't gotten nearly that far yet, but if you had Git on it already, you wouldn't have to go through this. If you had Composer, you wouldn't have to go through all this. But these are just gathering all the requirements that I need for this particular build.
So it's like Vagrant with the built-in provisioner.
Yes.
Right, but now you're having to install Microsoft Office off of floppies.
Yeah, but you got to be there to switch them out. So basically, like when this is all if everything passes, essentially, it doesn't run into any errors. It will kick off the yes, this is a successful build. Get to in a second. And currently, what I'm doing, I'm not doing any of the PHP CS part, but that's where it would dump out like, oh, this is not meeting standards. It kicks it back.
Does it show you what you need to change?
It would give you an output in the basic console here. So my last step is it says all done, which it did there. So according to this, it's a successful build because everything's passed there.
What would trigger unsuccessful or failed?
It's when it errors out. Like I have had several. Let me see if I can find one of the ones that failed. That one, yeah, but that one's. I have to find the.
Look at you now, you're just bragging.
We are very successful. I'm just saying.
Until you updated WordPress and then it broke.
failed.
Oh, yeah.
As we would expect.
Yeah. Now let me find. Okay, so this branch. Okay, so this one failed at.
Just maybe that's
Okay, so here it was it kicked back like basically a command line error where I didn't have permission to do something. So in that case, it did fail because it couldn't execute the command or it couldn't, verify the output of what it should have been.
Did it tell you where that is, like what line? Or it doesn't write over.
I mean, this is telling me this is the error I'm getting. That had I been on my computer, I'm like, oh, I don't have permission. I'll fix that.
Chmod +X.
That's right. See, I called David. So yeah, like I said, I haven't gotten it working for our deployment process or our.
So what's your next piece to streamline it? I mean, other than to make it so you're not having to reinstall.
So that's
whole
definitely
operating
number
system?
one. Is before we could ever integrate this into our workflow, we'd have to build our own Docker instance. There is actually a WordPress. A WordPress official Docker instance. So using that probably has a lot of the tools already that I would need. I think it comes with CLI and stuff like that too. So we could probably use that for part of it, at least to I had talked to Nathan a lot this weekend about his automation stuff, and
Which is just ridiculously awesome.
it's pretty nutty.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Like
yeah.
why?
Buy it.
He had the most, sorry Nathan, but he had a pretty rinky-dink setup for something that's just ridiculously amazing.
Yeah. No, the potential of that is pretty amazing. But again, one of the things he was talking about was in his automation, when you update plugins, it actually will go and render a screenshot of what it looks like before and after the updates. And it will compare HTML to see one's a white screen and there's a variance of difference.
The images. That thing's diffing the images.
Phantom, Phantom.js.
Yeah.
But he uses, and now he's gone further and done some code inception stuff where it will actually run through the site and click on links and do basic functionality to verify that everything still works, which again, crazy amazing. But you could do something like that with this instance where it's installing WordPress for you and doing all the things that you need to do. So So that's what I have for the pipeline stuff. I will definitely update you guys when I get a little further along this process. But are there any questions on kind of like what maybe you could use it for, or anything pipelines related? Cool. All right.
Cool.
Okay,
Did I
then.
mention that I put a request into the Meetup list if you go down to the conversation?
Future topics?
Yeah, that.
Okay.
It's got a whole list of things. I have a nonprofit site with just a few pages on HTTPS for donations, and people are saying you really should go to all HTTPS.
Yeah, you should.
Even PayPal's gonna start requiring,
Well,
PayPal standards gonna start requiring.
Where was it you who I was talking to? It said Google, as of January 2017, is going to start marking non-HTTPS sites
Yep.
as insecure,
Chrome is.
which is like stating the obvious, but
But Google's gonna,
basically
like,
it will point a finger at you, yeah, and be
It's a
like,
scarlet
this one
letter.
is not.
You're trying to log in on this insecure
don't
page.
use this site.
It's gonna serve up that big red.
Are you sure
Exactly.
you want to do
Don't ever
that?
click
Exactly. So it's, I mean, if you're not using HTTPS now, you should be
Well, all
on
those
everything.
the relevant pages are locked
On
on.
everything.
They want the whole site.
It doesn't matter. Like you shouldn't be launching any new sites without HTTPS. It doesn't make sense. And especially with things like Let's Encrypt, like it's free. There's really no reason why we shouldn't be.
And even if there's no purchase, nothing happening.
It doesn't matter.
just everything.
Because
Even
you
the
can't take
catalog
advantage of
needs to be-
HTTP2 without HTTPS.
Type the gap.
So you can't, without SSL and TLS, you can't do HTTP2. So you can't take advantage of all the benefits of it without that. Regardless of what kind of site yours is, it just makes it better when you have it secure.
Well, plus they're already demoting you in
Yeah.
ranking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the certificate loaded
Yeah,
there.
SiteGround, GoGeek already has a free
Yeah, it's
certificate.
Yeah,
Doesn't even
you might as well
work.
just convert everything to SSL.
Well, the checklist on there is gigantic when you go to.
So I'll tell you what you need to worry about.
Matt has a good write-up.
I mean, there's like, in order to transition a site from non to HTTPS, if you have CLI access or some sort of search and replace functionality, it's fairly easy to set up the certificate and then just search and replace for anything that's HTTP : your domain name, switch it with HTTPS, and that's like, as long as the certificate's all set up, like that takes care of 99% of the problems. The other things you have to worry about are social, and typically those are smart enough to detect whether you're SSL or not, and they serve up the right scripts from the right domains that are secure. The only negative thing that could happen really with SSL is you have mixed content errors, and that's what the search and replace should solve.
Yeah.
You just have
Some themes have a hard-coded HTTPS on a CSS file or
Mhm.
something.
There
and
is
that's
a
going to break you.
plugin from the one guy who now has an updated mixed pages where we want to have somebody. There's an out-of-date one that everybody's using, which is on the old site that I have, and a new one. And he said to me, "Why don't you just go all HTTPS?" But he has a checker thing that it runs a check to look for all the HTTP things. And I can tell you what that is.
So does
Told anybody.
okay, so I think I know what plugin you're talking about from the first one, and if the first
Yeah.
one, you should not be using that plugin because
Well, that's 3 years out of
That's-
date.
because
the
it
first one, right?
thrashes your server
Yeah.
like crazy, and it basically, for every lookup that your website does, it runs a check. So let's say you have a site that has 50 images on a page, every one of those gets checked on every request. It will kill your server.
It's a lot of overhead.
It is a ton of overhead. So be careful with ones that check, unless it's checking in the background and like giving you a table of things to fix. Like anything that just automatically fixes things is not good because it has to check it every single time.
Okay, so just manually.
And like I said, if you're able to run a search and replace, there's I mean, I literally just did this a few days ago on PixelJar. So you can basically use a one-line command within CLI, which I can post up there. But it will basically run through all of your database tables and fields and columns, everything in there, look for that specific string, pull it out, unserialize it if it's serialized, fix it, reserialize it, and put it back in the database so that no data, like no funky WordPress data gets messed up. But it's like all you have to do is copy and paste the command, change your domain name, that's it.
So I had an ad partner that was running ads on our site that was using HTTP for all of their images, and it kept breaking our HTTPS every single time the ad would rotate and display his stuff.
Yeah.
And so we got them to fix that, and then we came to find out that all of the images that are in the comments, because we allowed images in comments for whatever reason, all of those images were all kicking off HTTPs, and they didn't have an HTTPS equivalent. So you have to kind of start looking outside the box sometimes to see. And another one we're having a problem with is we use Beaver Builder on another site, and Beaver Builder, there's a Yahoo library that YAU. That one, they don't have an HTTPS version of it, but it's baked into Beaver Builder.
I've run into that one.
And they're still trying to work on how to fix that.
Seems like they should just include it in their plugin.
They kind of should just do that.
Fix it and deal with it later.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I can write this up, just this quick command, but really this plugin or this command will search your entire database, not just post or whatever. It will go through everything and look. It's not smart. I mean, it will do exactly what you tell it to do, but if you know that assets on your site in particular are HTTP, like you put a bunch of images in your blog post, this will replace all those with HTTPS.
And would you need 301 redirects or whatever for pages, because your other sites that have your other HTTP?
What's interesting is on a couple of sites that we work on, Google has started indexing HTTPS pages, even though they're not serving HTTPS pages.
Oh, that's smart.
And so what happens is, if you click on one of those links, it hits the HTTPS, but then it redirects to the HTTP for that server in particular. So, I mean, you may be getting dinged because of that, because they're serving links that you can't accept. So, again, another reason why you need to be switching to HTTPS at this point.